Palestinian Hamas movement and its rival Al Fatah party agreed to set up a joint committee for the post-war governance of Gaza. In China, authorities banned exports of key metals to the United States after Washington increased technology restrictions. And South American countries agreed to strengthen energy cooperation at the second meeting of vice ministers of energy of the Brasilia consensus. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Palestinian Hamas movement and its rival Al Fatah party, which supports President Mahmoud Abbas, have agreed to set up a joint committee for the post-war governance of Gaza. According to this plan, which was reached in Egypt's capital Cairo and which still needs the approval of the Palestinian presidency, the committee will be made up of a group of 10 to 15 non-partisan figures with authority in matters related to the economy, education, health, humanitarian aid and construction. Hamas and Al Fatah have also agreed that this committee would administer the Palestinian side of the Rafah checkpoint bordering Egypt, the only passage to the territory they do not share with Israel. And a newly released report by the United Nations warns about starvation in northern Gaza due to the Israeli siege, which has completely deprived many people of food and water. The siege maintained by the Israeli Zionist troops for almost 2 months now includes, in addition to constant bombardments, a restriction on the entry of humanitarian aid. This way, out of 200 trucks a day contemplated in the UN assistance agreement, Israel does not allow more than 36. As a consequence, bakeries in the north have closed due to the lack of flour, leaving the people trapped in destroyed homes without food or water, having to resort to negative habits such as skipping meals or eating out of the garbage to alleviate hunger. Also in Palestine, artist Maisa Youssef continues to share her creativity through her works as a means to help the people of the Gaza Strip in the midst of the Israeli aggression in the territory. According to local media, the renowned painter expresses her ideas and emotions through her unique artistic style, transforming the pain of destruction into art on the shattered canvases left behind by Israeli bombardments. Youssef stated that she intends to continue her artistic career despite the hardships she has faced and the fact that her studio is under rubble. This Palestinian painter expressed she is documenting her reality through art in order to immortalize it in the history of humanity.
During the first displacement, we faced extremely difficult conditions. We left under fire and shelling and returned when the situation improved. But in the second displacement, there was a military order to evacuate the area. We had to leave everything and focus only on saving our lives and our children. When we returned on August 24th, my house was 85% destroyed, and now I live in what can barely be considered a house. Despite all this, I am still going ahead with my artistic career. My studio used to be a space full of life and creativity, where I also organized workshops for children. Now, although I no longer have that space, I try to continue because I believe that creativity does not stop. I am working to document what we have lived through during this war and to transmit my experiences through my art. We are still living and we are still creating to tell our story.
Moving on, China has expressed its support for the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad amid the fights against the recent terrorist offensives in the north of the country. During a press conference, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Yan reaffirmed Beijing's support for Damascus. He also informed that for the moment there is no immediate evacuation of their nationals in the country, but confirmed that there is a protocol in place. The Chinese spokesman further assured that Syria is a friendly country, so they are willing to make friendly and cooperative efforts to prevent further deterioration of the situation. China and Syria signed a strategic partnership agreement in 2023, strengthening their bilateral relations. And on Tuesday, China responded firmly to U.S. measures banning exports of key metals to the North American country. The move comes after Washington announced new technologies restrictions. Precisely as of Tuesday, any organization or individual from any country or region that violates this decision of the Chinese government will be held accountable under the law. In turn, after accusing the United States of an act of economic coercion, China decided to suspend exports of gallium, germanium, antimony, and graphite, key metals, for both civil and military use. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce claimed the measure is aimed at protecting the nation's security and interests. The Democratic Republic of the Congo denounced President of Rwanda Paul Kagame before the African Court of Human and People's Rights for serious human rights violations in the province of North Kivu. According to the claim, Rwanda is alleged to have committed such serious crimes as the plundering of minerals, rape of children, women, and massacres, as well as decades of aggression. According to the Congolese Vice Minister of Justice Samuel Memba, the hearing will take place on February 12th at the tribunal's headquarters in Tanzania. Kinshasa has already denounced Kigali to the International Criminal Court, which accepted the Congolese invitation to investigate the alleged crimes and violations. Now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Russia discussed the elaboration of a strategy for the development of the education system until 2040. The document is being prepared on behalf of the President and will be presented in the spring of 2025. Oli Jasinski with the details.
The development of a unified education strategy for the country is under preparation in Russia. This national project, as part of Youth and Children, is to be submitted to the government in March 2025 and will involve experts in the field of education, teachers, rectors of leading universities, business representatives, state corporations, students, and young people. The country faces great challenges.
There is still a great demand to improve the quality of national education, but there are also serious problems. This involves a high bureaucratic burden on teachers and a shortage of teachers in several regions. Several systemic decisions have already been taken to improve this area. The President has developed a comprehensive action plan aimed at improving the quality of education in mathematics, physics, and natural science subjects in general in all schools in the country, and at increasing the level of teacher training in these disciplines and eliminating the shortage of personnel.
The issue of youth policy is of strategic importance to the country, especially at this historic moment. Today's young people are the future of the country, and everything possible must be done to help them learn to express themselves and their talents, set goals, and achieve success. Many reforms in recent years have been counterproductive for educational development, so they need to be reevaluated.
We must return to traditional Russian education. We can no longer train high school students for the unified state exam, instead of providing them with real skills. The indicator of education was not the quality, but the number of machine-readable points. I think one of the important achievements of last year's State Duma was the passage of the unified curriculum and unified textbook law in the humanities. We got rid of hundreds of actual textbooks written under the dictation of Soros consultants.
The needs and wishes of the students themselves and their parents are also taken into account when developing the strategy. To collect data on their expectations, sociological studies are conducted on the Government Services Portal. There are working groups with university students, as well as with middle and high school students.
This is work on a scale unprecedented in our country's modern history. In fact, the whole country is involved in it. The education system as a whole must meet the national goals and objectives set for us by the President and help to strengthen economic sovereignty in all key areas. To this end, it is necessary for the educational field to fully meet the personnel requirements of the industry.
La política estatal en el campo de la educación
State policy in the field of education will be implemented by granting subsidies to the regions, while emphasizing the importance of aligning regional projects with federal objectives,
con los objetivos federales, así como los principios en los que se basa
as well as the principles on which education policy is based. This coordination is aimed at increasing efficiency and achieving the goals of the National Education Project.
Oleg Yasinski, teleSUR, Moscú.
In the United States, the Chicago Police Department reported a new shooting inside a home that left at least 8 people injured. According to local authorities, the incident occurred in the Chicago Lawn neighborhood located in the southwest of the city, and upon the arrival of emergency services, they reported that at least 2 people were killed at the scene. They also noted that the injured civilians were immediately transported to local health centers for medical attention due to the severity of their injuries. So far, the Chicago Police Department has stressed that they are conducting an ongoing investigation to find the culprits. Let's take a look at updated figures on the scourge published by the independent organization Gun Violence Archive in the United States. So far this year, 474 mass shootings have been reported in the U.S. Among these, at least 27 massacres or mass murders have been reported. In other words, events in which more than 4 people were killed, while the number of gun-related deaths was 15,451. Of these, 226 were reported to be children under 11 years of age and 1,065 teenagers, for a total of 1,291 minors. South American countries agreed to strengthen energy cooperation at the second meeting of Vice Ministers of Energy of the Brasilia Consensus. Representatives of the 12-member countries of the Brasilia Consensus met in the Colombian capital at the second meeting of Vice Ministers of Energy. This consultation mechanism was created to strengthen ties between neighboring countries in South America. In this framework, they agreed to consolidate integration to address the energy transition as a bloc. They also highlight the importance of the technical reports prepared by the Latin American Energy Organization, which will be a key tool to guide the political and energy decisions of the bloc's member countries. And the normalization of relations between Colombia and Venezuela has enabled the government of Gustavo Petro to assist communities isolated by heavy rain through Venezuelan territory. Venezuela authorized the opening of a humanitarian corridor to bring assistance to the indigenous communities in the north of the Colombian department of La Guajira. The opening includes land transit from Paraguación to Castilletes, facilitating the delivery of food, hygiene and kitchen kits, among other aid to municipalities such as Maicao and Uribia. In addition, it will allow the access of organizations such as the Civil Defense and the Colombian Red Cross, ensuring medical attention and the provision of basic supplies. We have now a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro stated that not a single migrant would reach the United States if the agreements of Qatar and Barbados were complied with and all the illegal sanctions applied against the Venezuelan people were lifted. The Venezuelan head of state stated that the country's far right, together with the United States, prepared and infected the social networks with hate to sabotage the presidential elections of last July 28th and its aftermath. In this regard, the head of state affirmed that the Venezuelan people managed to defeat a cyber-fascist coup d'etat. Furthermore, he assured that if the sanctions against the Venezuelan people were lifted, no citizen would migrate to the U.S. and those who are outside the country could voluntarily return to their homeland.
Es lo que yo digo. Y se lo dije al gobierno de Estados Unidos
I have
ahora.
already said it, and I have told it to the government of the United States. I sent President Joe Biden to be told, although I don't know if they did it. If the agreements of Qatar and Barbados had been complied with by the United States government,
Por parte del gobierno de Estados Unidos, yo lo dije. Y lo repito aquí, Madeleine.
I said it, and I repeat it here, Madeleine. I repeat it here. Once Venezuela fully recovers, and if all the economic sanctions on Venezuela were lifted, the recovery would accelerate. And in less than a year, counted from the date when all the sanctions were lifted, not a single migrant would arrive in the United States. And furthermore, all those migrants who voluntarily wanted to return would be able to do so. I am sure that this would be so, because it is already being seen.
And in Colombia, farmers' organizations analyzed the decree of President Gustavo Petro for a comprehensive rural reform in view of the threat of agro-industrial companies to their territories. During a meeting held in the capital, Bogota, the union discussed in depth the current government's drive for the integration and transformation of farmers' territories in the face of large multinationals. In this sense, they requested an open dialogue between the agro-industrial companies and the government to reach an agreement in order to put an end to the aggressions of the multinationals and mining organizations in their territories. In addition, the members of the union assured that these meetings are a key point for farmers to have a leading role in the country and to organize agricultural production.
This figure of farmers' planning of the territory helps us to strengthen farmer organization, to organize agricultural production in a different way, because we have seen how production has been deindustrialized in Colombia. We aim to recover industrialization. That is to say that the farmers play a leading role not only in continuing to produce food, but also in generating mechanisms and means to transform these primary products and contribute to overcoming the problem of hunger in Colombia and the problem of labor, because with deindustrialization comes unemployment, informality, and migration from the countryside to the city, which has generated the isolation that we have today, unemployment, etc.
The main threats come from the landowners, from the multinational companies, from agribusiness, which is established in the country on the land, and of course the policies of the state if the government is able to change it. And if they don't change, the threats will continue to be permanent because territoriality is the basis of popular power.
The United Nations World Food Programme announced that it will expand its services in Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, to respond to the increase in food needs of Haitians. The displacement of at least 50,000 people due to criminal armed violence worsened the country's food crisis. Juan Jacaria, local director of the program, ratified the commitment with the people, detailing that they are working in the main office in Port-au-Prince and in 4 others throughout the country to attend to 5.4 million people facing acute hunger. So far this year, the program has assisted a total of 1.7 million people, prioritizing pregnant women, nursing mothers, and children under 5 years of age. In Mexico, during the 16th International Afro-Indo-American Colloquium, specialists denounced the fact that racism seeks to gain recognition in various spheres, including politics. Let's see.
Donald Trump's electoral triumph in the United States is a clear example of how racist discourse is gaining ground in terms of social acceptance, says this specialist.
The rise of Donald Trump to the presidency creates a lot of questions, I think, for both the right and the left. Racism is gaining ground, as Durbin told us in 2001. How we see it, as an important revival of the strengthening of hate speeches with a racist patriarchal harassment. The legitimization of these speeches and racist practices both in the political, media, and cultural spheres.
During the 16th International Colloquium on Afro-Indo-America, held at the Metropolitan Autonomous University Iztapalapa Unit, academics warned that historically subjugated Afro-descendant peoples must continue to struggle for the recognition of their rights.
Restorative justice, climate justice, digital justice. We go with these three key demands as a key anti-racist paradigm with historical reparation at its core.
The colloquium on African-American peoples seeks to develop a critical panorama that goes beyond the academic debate and materializes in social actions.
I feel that these types of spaces are extremely important because they generate reflections and because it is directly a call to action so that from the academic world, we can also think about how to face these social problems that contribute to the perpetuation of practices that end up generating these social inequalities.
The presence of Afro-descendant peoples must be manifested in all areas to avoid the invisibility of their important contributions to Latin American culture.
Through the invisibilization of these populations, bad practices are perpetuated. I believe that an important theme to visualize these populations is precisely to insist on the cultural presence and in all aspects of these populations. In the different Latin American countries and in general in America, in all of America, from the north to the south.
In Latin America, there are an estimated 134 million people of African descent, representing 20% of the region's total population, most of them living in poverty or vulnerability. In addition to the ongoing struggle against racism, Afro-descendant peoples seek to discuss new demands such as climate justice, Afrofeminism, and human and labor rights.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.